Jeff Morrow over in the Weather Center. Let's get to him, Jeff.
Yeah, we're talking about the winds, 62-mile-per-hour wind gusts right now in Patterson, Louisiana, which is just in the eastern side of St. Mary Parish, so just near Terrebonne Parish, where we had that early report from Ethan. You can see right now Hurricane Francine, a Category 2 hurricane, and 100-mile-per-hour maximum sustained winds right now moving northeast at 17 miles per hour, expecting landfall probably within the next hour or so. Now, here's a look at what we are watching with the track. You can see forecast track now indicating a passage essentially between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. It will gradually weaken as it moves through, but is still expected to remain a Category 2 hurricane at landfall, which again we expect to take place either momentarily or within the next hour. It will then rapidly weaken as it moves northward. So you see right here as it approaches the state line will be a tropical storm by that point, but we're still expecting hurricane force conditions to be possible even as it spreads inland, just because of the wind field being as strong as it is, with it being a Category 2 hurricane at this time. So in terms of what we're dealing with for the pinpoint forecast for the threats and risks for tonight, as we continue with our first alert weather day, we have a slight concern, slight risk for a few isolated tornadoes. And that'll be mainly on the eastern fringe of the circulation. We have a widespread threat for strong winds. Obviously, we're going to be seeing more than likely tropical storm force winds through a majority of our area in terms of sustained winds, but we could see some hurricane gusts, especially along and close to the center point of the circulation of the storm. Now, flooding concerns remain elevated, especially for areas we think between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, where we could see some localized bullseyes, upwards of 10 to 12 inches of rain. Low-lying, poorly drained areas most at risk of seeing flash flooding in those locations, but we're already starting to see some flash flood warnings pop up along our coastal parishes dealing with the northern eye wall associated with Francine. We've got some of these outer rain bands moving through Metro Baton Rouge and some of the areas to the north of us as well. So that includes portions of Point Capee, West Feliciana, and East Feliciana Parish. Haven't seen much in the way of heavier rainfall or strong winds just yet, but does look like you're getting your first taste of that right now. Got another wave of a rain band here making its way towards the interstate corridor of I-10, I-12. That too going to produce some gusty winds and some very heavy rainfall, but our strongest of the winds right now kind of encompassing right here with this northern eye wall. And as we take a look at the velocity signature of radar, this gives us a measurement of not only wind direction but also wind speed, where you see this bright shade of pink right here through a good chunk of St. Mary Parish. That is some very hefty winds right now. And if we take a sampling of those winds, let me see if I can find my tool here. To do that, we're getting some reports, according to radar, of 76-mile-per-hour winds. Now, keep in mind that is elevated far, a couple of 100,000 feet above the radar site, but certainly could be transitioning to the ground at least in the realm of 60 to 65-mile-per-hour winds. So we are seeing some intense wind. Obviously, we can use that using our first alert radar network. As we tap into our sites along the coast, you can see where we're picking up that strong rain band circulating around the entire circulation. And again, as Dr. Steve has pointed out, the center point of the eye is that designation for landfall, and that would be probably somewhere in here. So we're very close, if not getting there, in terms of that landfall projection, which should take place somewhere here on the western banks of Terrebonne Parish into the Gulf of Mexico. So all this rain continuing to advance in, and it's not really moving much.
I'm gonna hop in with you real quick, just to let everybody know they did just declare landfall. So 4:57 landfall, Category 2, about 30 miles south-southwest of Houma, Terrebonne Parish.
All right, so there we go. So there's the official landfall being designated by the National Hurricane Center. Again, south-southwest of Houma. That would be kind of in this area like we were just pointing out. So as we talk about the flood threat, we are seeing ongoing flood concerns in terms of flash flooding across St. Mary Parish along Highway 90. That stretches all the way from Jeanerette through Franklin, Morgan City, over towards Amelia, and then into Terrebonne Parish, stretching from Houma down towards Chauvin. You can see where we have that also flash flood warning. When we take a look at the estimations of rainfall, you can see where we've got these spots here of yellow and orange shades of color. So we're talking 4 to 5+ inches of rain. A lot of that has fallen in a very short amount of time as that northern eye wall has made its way through. So the concern is with this northern eye wall, it's going to continue to slowly advance up towards the north, and these rainfall estimates will continue and travel in this general direction. So this is kind of the mode of the direction of where these heavier rains are going to be. Here's New Orleans. Up at the top of the screen is Prairieville. So it's kind of right there along that I-10 corridor through Ascension, St. James, and across the Bonnet-Carré Spillway, where we're going to probably see our heaviest rains. And that is exactly the placement the Weather Prediction Center has put their big swath of rains. You'll notice for Metro Baton Rouge and areas to the west, a very big staggering down in terms of those rainfall estimations. So where you see these sort of shades of blue, we're talking more or less half of an inch to an inch and a half of rainfall. As we get into the pinks and purples, we're talking more or less closer to 2 to 3 inches of rain. And then these oranges and yellows, we're talking about 4 to 7, maybe even 10 inches of rain. So as we paint in those numbers, you can see 5 to 10 inch rainfall totals stretching essentially from Morgan City all the way through LaPlace into Slidell, and then 2 to 5 as you go more towards Grand Isle and Burris, and then as you look towards Baton Rouge up towards Macomb and westward, that's where we're talking about 2 to 5 inches of additional rainfall. So let's show you how that rain is going to be falling as we take a look at Futurecast. Compounding with these rain bands continue to advance into the area and lifting off towards the north. Oh, by the way, embedded within some of that could be a few isolated tornadoes. We do have a tornado watch for areas east and southeast of Baton Rouge through about 10 o'clock this evening. So here's that big northern fringe of the eye wall that we're going to be watching for those heavier rainfalls. Again, kind of lifting towards the north into the New Orleans area, along that Bonnet-Carré Spillway area over towards Ascension Parish, then moving into the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain and continuing to kind of pinwheel itself up towards the north. And then finally, maybe as we go into the late night, into the early morning start for tomorrow, we'll see those improving conditions, and we are expecting a rapid improvement in terms of those conditions as we make our way through the day on Thursday. So here's the recovery forecast, taking you from Thursday, Friday into Saturday as we begin to pick up the pieces and allow us to dry out, because we are expecting drier weather to prevail all the way through the rest of this week. So rapidly improving weather conditions begin on Thursday. We'll still have some breezy winds around through the day on Thursday, but I think the threshold for Demco and Entergy crews to get out there and start making those repairs is less than 30 miles per hour. So we are expecting those winds to stabilize below that threshold, but still be a little bit breezy. So kind of be careful if you're going to be maybe climbing on the ladders or trying to pick up some debris. We still could have some wind to help pick those up and carry those off. But another thing that we got to keep an eye on is the heat. Keep the heat in mind, especially if you don't have power and a way to escape the heat into air conditioning. Yeah, we're going to be seeing those daytime highs climbing as we move into the weekend, and by Saturday we've got those highs back into the 90s. So deaths after the fact can certainly happen, not only due to generator safety, but also because of heat-related concerns. So heat stroke, heat exhaustion, real things that we got to monitor once we get past the storm and we see the hot weather return.